All right, hello everyone. This is Josh, also known as Yashu, and we're on episode 71 of the TLOY Talks podcast, located at 1990 Studios and all that too. You'll definitely tap into a lot of the other episodes coming in soon and all that from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Buzzsprout, much more and all that. We're gonna get it started right here and all that. So he has had some good production credits here and there and all that. He has worked with a previous guest that I've had before in the past, Jesse the Dreamer, and then a well-known Oshawa bass producer who has worked with a lot of artists like B Beanie, Alex Thompson, Hecko, Chris Chand, Smart Santi, and he also had dabbled in musical theater production as well too, and being in the whole musical theater scene and all that too. So we have Matt Knudsen in the building. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Good to be here. I'm glad, man. Thank you.
For sure, man. And so is it actually Matt Knudsen, or how would you pronounce your name?
So technically it's Knudsen.
Oh, Knudsen?
But I usually just tell people it's Knudsen, just for simplicity's sake.
Yeah. Because sometimes too it's with a K, usually it'll be pretty silent and all that too and all that. So sometimes too, I don't know if it's kind of a whole Scandinavian thing and all that.
It is actually, yeah. I got them Denmark roots apparently. So
true.
yeah.
So half Dane and I guess half Chinese or French or anything like that?
Filipino, actually. Filipino on my mom's side, yeah.
Nice, man. And it's dope to have you on here today and all that. And basically we actually connected from after the Jesse the Dreamer episode podcast and all that too. And he kind of mentioned you on that certain part on the podcast too and all that. And it was just a dope experience, knowing the connectivity between certain artists here and there and all that. And it's amazing to see. We tapped in and listen to your music, and it's been pretty dope so far and all that.
Thank you, man. No, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, Jesse and I have we've been around the works together quite a bit recently, so we've been doing quite a bit together.
Hundo P, man, most definitely and all that. And we're gonna get into your story right now for a bit too and all that. So you were born and raised in Oshawa, that's correct?
Oh, well, I was born in Toronto actually, at North York General here. And then I moved to Oshawa at I was 2 or 3. It was at a really young age, yeah.
True, man. 100%. And so from growing up in Toronto and in Oshawa, what were the environments for you growing up at the Sams and all that?
The environment it was interesting, I'd say. I wasn't necessarily in the north end of Oshawa, the preppier side, I guess. But I wasn't necessarily in the dirty part of Oshawa. So it was kind of a best of both worlds scenario where I did have those characters, that you see in Oshawa and stuff like that. But there's also a good mix of just your average folk and just good people sort of thing.
100%, man. And I also talked about earlier with you how I went to UIT in Oshawa, and this is from 2014 to 2018. And I think since then it has changed with the gentrification and everything like that too. Early Oshawa back then and all that, the mall wasn't really as much and all that. South Oshawa, it could be grimy at times here and there too and all that. And then, the music hall was just already there and all that. And now it's the Biltmore Theater, and I think the music hall is just up the street and all that, I think too.
Yeah. They still have the Regent Theater and stuff like that too.
True.
Yeah. But the Biltmore Theater, that's seems to be sort of the spot now for most bands and stuff to come.
No, I know what you mean, man. And, to continue on and all that too, what was your childhood like? And would you say it was a good experience, or would it be very different?
I'd say I had a good childhood. I mean, I had nothing, no real complaints really. Obviously, all families have their issues and stuff like that. But yeah, nothing too out of the ordinary. I'd say I had a pretty good childhood, maybe mixed up with some wrong people here and there. But for the most part, I've kept my distance from that crowd, sort of. So I'm not, I'd say it was pretty good, man. I definitely no complaints, really. I'm a pretty optimistic guy when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah, most definitely. And, usually with, people, too, and all that, with kids and all that, they tend to develop, a main, character syndrome, or, they develop their, arc at, certain points and all that, in their life, in a sense. So, for you, what were you, as, a kid to, a young adulthood and all that?
I was edgy, definitely edgy. I was kind of a troublemaker, I'd say. I loved to pick at people and get on their nerves and stuff like that. but I was always nice, and I always respected people to a certain extent, you know. So yeah, I was never like a bad guy or anything like that.
Sure, like kind of like Dennis the Menace and all that.
Yeah, no, basically, man,
true.
basically, yeah. I was like, I don't know what, something just clicked in my brain. I'm just like, man, I love just like annoying people almost.
Nah, 100%. Because I know everyone has like a Dennis the Menace like in their like background and all that. Like in a sense, like I feel like when they have that element, you know, like it'll be like ruckus like one way or another and all that too. So
no, it was definitely a hoot probably raising me. I'm sure. Like I was like a pretty loud kid, always out and stuff like that. So
true.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, man.
I was in trouble.
For sure. And, you know, to get more into your like story on music, like what was like your first introduction to music, and what were like some artists or sounds that you kind of like grew up like listening to and all that?
So like my earliest memory of music, I think, would literally be my dad showing me, I think it was Hey Jude by the Beatles. Like I think it was right when I moved to Oshawa. We were listening to it off one of like his burned little cassette tapes, I think. Oh, wow. And I just thought it was just magical. I was like, this is insane. I'm like, you can make this? Like humans can make this? And then it sort of moved on to Led Zeppelin. My dad showed me Led Zeppelin. That's like around when I got my first guitar as well. And I was just like living it up, trying to be like Jimmy Page and stuff like that. Yeah. And then, and then I took like a little break. When I was like 12, something like that, from learning. And I just like, I don't know, it felt like forced upon me, kind of in a sense. And then I picked it back up like a year or so later. And then it's just been like rocketing off from there. And like I got into the Chili Peppers from my buddy Owen when I first got into high school. And then I just went on like this musical surge, and I just like started just listening to everything basically.
True. Mm-hmm. So I guess like during like that time and all that, were you like a CD person back then, or like more like listening to like iTunes or like Apple Music, like in a sense too?
I was a good mix of both, I think. Like I bought my first CD that I ever bought was Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith. I was like 7 or 8, and then I remember my mom got a BlackBerry when I was in like when I was in grade 5 or 6, and she would always let me take it whenever I'd go out to like the mall or something. True. And then I'd download I'd like pirate like a bunch of songs, like a bunch of Mac Miller and like tie the songs onto it and stuff like that. And I'd just be like walking around the mall with headphones in, just thinking like I'm the shit sort of thing. Like,
yeah. I think like even like those times and all that too, like a lot of the kids were kind of cosplaying like that whole like Mac Miller like Tyga like scene and all that too, because I think like cloud rap was like one of the like the craziest like waves back then and all that too, just like with the whole like lyrics and like even just with the aspect of the song being more fun and all that, like in a sense and all that.
Yeah, and I feel like it really like tended to like how people dressed back then too, like that whole swag era, you know, like the Cool Story Bro stuff and the Goodwoods. Like I remember like Tory Lanez when he dropped that like Goodwood song, man, like. That was just like crazy to me. I was like, this is crazy, man. Like, this is amazing.
Sure. And like, I remember at that time, like, I used to go to like this like mall back then when I was like in grade 9, grade 10 and all that. And basically they would sell like, you know, like bootleg, like sweatshirts and all that too. Like they were selling like YMCMB, like Taylor Gang, like Cool Story Bro, like I think the Obey shirts and all that. And like these are like the bootleg ones and all that too. Like they would never sell it like at like the other stores and all that too. So, but it was like a time to be alive back then in a sense, and even with Tumblr too, you know. So
yeah, especially the Pickering Flea Market too, man. Oh, that was a classic place to get that stuff.
100%, man. And you know, I want to ask, like, you know, knowing that you have like some experience in like musical theater, like how did you get into it, and what inspired you into getting into that sort of scene?
Man, it was actually literally all by chance. So what happened when I was doing my first gig, the Peter Pan run, sorry. My buddy Liam was actually supposed to do the bass on it.
Oh, sure.
And last minute, he's like, yeah, man, I can't do it, sort of thing. And the MD ended up calling him while he was at my house. And then he basically just like offered me the part right then and there. And then it was just like, all right, man, guess I'm doing it. Learned 40 songs, and it's just like, all right, let's do this.
True. And how was like that experience like in a way, you know, like just like even being like performing like at those events and all that, like whether it's like one night or like many nights and all that too? And
it's, man, at first it was really scary because I hadn't read music in like a while. And then it's just like everything was so like it was so like uniformed in a sense, where it was like I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to be that guy, you know. So it was like I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me. But once you get into a few show runs and stuff, like it's totally fine. It's not bad at all. But like when you're in the pit, even it's like I've been up on stage before, like in front of like people watching me.
True.
In music, when you're in the pit, you're usually hidden away. Depends on how it's set up. But yeah, like it was fine, really. Like I'm in there with my buddies, like we're giggling and stuff the whole time. It's good. It's good. It's fun.
Because I know like with most people, like they would start that from like high school, and then it would like continue to college until like they get their first big break in like a production, like let's say somewhere like in Roy Thompson, or like let's say like in Princess of Wales, like if we're like talking like Toronto and all that. But I think for you, you know, it just kind of came like very simple and all that, just, you know, by chance, like as you mentioned, all that too.
Yeah, no, literally it was all by chance, just being there in the right moment somehow. Yeah.
And, you know, I also want to ask, like, you were also in the Matilda, the musical, and then the Sound of, like, Music and all that. So how did those, like, come about? And, like, how was it, like, you know, like, even being with those, like, production teams as well?
So I'll start with Matilda. Matilda came about by one of my buddies from Peter Pan actually reaching back out to me. My buddy Keishan, he literally hit me up out of nowhere, and he was like, hey, man, like, we need a guitarist for this Matilda show. You're going to be put up in a hotel for a week in Coburg sort of thing. And that was literally another 1 day notice thing as well. So I was just like, all right, like here's the music, like let's get going sort of thing. So that was really good though. Like, and that was actually one where I was up on stage as well, like facing everyone, but still it was still like pretty comforting. Like all the eyes are on everyone else. So it's not that serious really to me.
Yeah.
Sound of Music, I actually split the guitar part with my buddy Colton with that, because he started getting some like tinnitus in his ear. So he asked me to help cover for him so he didn't have to like take the brunt of all of it. So I was like, yeah, man, like no worries at all. But that one was really cool too. It was a different change of pace musically for me, but it was still a really fun show to play.
Yeah. And you know, like usually like when people talk about like musical theater and all that too, like there's always like this whole like process of like the start of the production until like when that show time ends and all that too. So how is like kind of like a typical day like from like that start until like now and all that?
It varies on each day, like the schedules for it. So like there one day you could have like usually it'll be like, you know, 2 or 3 rehearsal dates or something like that, and then you'll have your sits probe, which is basically like almost just everyone coming together and doing like a mock show.
Yeah.
And then there's like dress rehearsals, and then it's just like showtime basically. And but it's not as time taxing as some people think it is. Like maybe the rehearsals are only usually like an hour or two. Like the longest day will probably be the sits probe. Like usually that's like a full day of work. And then yeah, when you're doing the shows, it's like, yeah, you just have to be there half an hour before your call. Yeah. And then, yeah, it's just like a 2-hour show usually. And then bam, you're done. Yeah. So it's not bad at all.
Oh, sure.
It's not bad at all. Yeah.
And like, just like the environments and all that too, because I know like sometimes too, when we see like musical theaters and like all that type of stuff from the start, like it'll be like from like High School Musical or like Glee and all that. And, you know, there would be like kind of like stereotypical like impressions about like that whole scene with people being divas and all that, and like the like main conductor, like the main lead, like being like the strict like person and all that too. Like let's say like think of that guy from like Whiplash and all that with the instructing the people who's like doing like the orchestra and all that too.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like anything like that like when you were like working on that, or like totally opposite.
No, it's totally opposite, man. I always tell people this about Whiplash. I'm like, music's not like that. Like I swear, it's like it's not like that. You're not getting chairs thrown at you and yelled at and shit like that. Like that's just like over the top. But I mean like I mean still respects to that movie though. Like I like what they did with it. Yeah. But that's just not usually how it goes. Usually people just try to always get along and stuff like that. It just makes things a lot easier, at least from what I've seen, is like as long as people are working together, and like it just makes everything run a lot smoother.
For sure. And I don't know, there are like other like misconceptions as well too, because I know like with the general public, they'll tend to view, like as I said, like view musical theater like in certain ways and all that too. But I don't know, like with your experience, have you noticed like the misconceptions as well too? Yeah,
there are a lot of misconceptions. Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of them are there. Like there are some stereotypical, like, you know, like theater kids sort of thing. Yeah. But like for the most part, like everyone's like pretty normal. Like I like not everyone meets the stereotype, I should say.
True.
Yeah, it's sort of a 50-50. And I feel like it's like that for most things as well. Like there's like a little area where they do live, and then sometimes it's just like all perception.
For sure. And just to kind of like end the topic right now and like getting back into your story for a bit too, how did you get into like producing and engineering and all that?
That honestly didn't really come until I started learning in college. But I really got inspired to do it from my buddy Hudson or Northwave. He's the one who got me, like this guy showed me a sample pack from one of our favorite producers out in Germany, Stupid Lou, and it was called the Overseas Sample Library. I remember I listened to it and I was like, this is probably the best thing I've ever heard in my life. So I literally just like, I hunkered down just this one summer, my first year of college, and I just like tried to get everything done, just learn as much stuff musically as I could. And then it just like kind of got me to where I am today, like building that foundation for myself, like really set the bar. And now I can sort of like roam around in that realm.
Yeah, man, 100% too. And as far as like inspirations goes, like who would you say like or like some major influences like when it comes to producing and like engineering and all that?
Man, my buddy Hudson for sure. That's a definite like, because I heard this guy's drums and I was just astounded. There's a lot, man, and a lot of them are just like, they're not even like from here either. Like a lot of the German guys like Wizzle, Cryptic, Stupid Lou again, and then some Steven Schaefer as well. He's like a younger guy too, and he's like amazing. I love his drums as well. But I'm also a huge like Rick Rubin guy as well and stuff like that. So I try to pay homage to everyone who's playing their part in the scene. Yeah,
for sure. And like for me, I could say like Mike Dean. He's like very legendary when it comes to like engineering and all that too.
Yeah, big one of mine there.
Mixed by Ali, who worked with like like the whole like TDE camp and all that.
Yeah, like all the Kendrick stuff.
Yeah, and then also what else? DJ Dahi and all that. He's also pretty good too. DJ Shadow is like pretty good. Like when it comes to like the mixing, like mastering with stuff and all that. And then it's like far as like the Toronto stuff. There used to be like this guy like named Gadget. I think he's like with OVO and all that, and basically he pretty much like worked with like all of like Drake stuff and all that, and he also worked with like a previous guest that I've had before, like outside of this like podcast, Pilla B and all that, and it's like very amazing to see too, because like you see like a lot of them and like how like it's amazing to see like how producing and engineering like kind of like intermingle and all that too, because like many producers can be like engineers and all that, but not a lot of like engineers can be producers like in a way and all that. It also like kind of depends on the situation.
Yeah, no, I kind of feel that. Yeah, and because I can tell when an engineer doesn't make beats is when they take all the low end out of my 808s, man. I can tell, and it makes me a little upset. But it's just not for some people, or maybe they just haven't put not enough time into it as they should have, or something like that. But yeah, some people definitely have like a brick wall there when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah, because like with most producers, like they can come up with like maybe 40 to 50 beats, like maybe like in a day, maybe 60 or 70 if they're going like the full route, like no eating, drinking, or anything like that too. But like with an engineer too, like they'll be like in the studio, like just like kind of mixing, mastering, like a lot of like artists like with their vocals, with their like stems, everything else too, and like they try to figure out like what works best and all that. But like when it comes to the whole like creative aspect, sometimes too it could be like confusing, because then they're gonna have to take that whole direction from the artist and then make it work on their end. So with producers, I feel like they can do like both the engineering and producing, and it could still work out like either way in a sense, So
yeah, no, it definitely goes hand in hand with each other if you can do it. Like it's like, because most of my clients, like they'll just like, we'll do the composition session, we'll make a song, and then they'll just get me to mix and master it or something like that. So I mean, it's also another income stream as well for producers. So yeah, if you can do it, I would do it. But I think all engineers should honestly try and hunker down. At least it doesn't even have to be making beats too, right? Like you can pick up the guitar, make some rock music, or like whatever the case is.
Yeah, for like better elements and all that too. So for sure, man. And what's your musical like background and history? Like I don't know if you had like family or friends that kind of like worked on like music prior to your start like in music, and what inspired you to be in that route in producing and engineering and like even like take it seriously and all that?
Oh man. Okay, well, my dad, definitely, he was probably my number one, because he's the one who just like got me into music, really. Like he was like the guitar guy in the family. So he was always playing. He makes music and stuff like I do as well. He also does his own engineering and stuff like that. And then and then it was basically all just like self-driven from there until I met like Hudson and stuff like that, where it just like that like gave me another like boost of like creativity sort of thing, and just like but mostly I would attribute it probably to my dad. Yeah. Yeah, he really set the bar for me when it came. He's the one who like bought me all my guitars and stuff growing up.
Oh, true.
Like for Christmas and whatnot. So yeah, big shout out Pops.
Shout out Popsy the Witsu and all that. And who would you like to work with someday? Like I know like you've worked with like the people that I've listed like earlier and all that, but like if you had like either like Toronto artists or like other people that you want to work with, like who'd you want to tap in with?
Oh man, I mean, I would love to work with just like everyone basically. Like I feel like I got something for everyone in that sort of sense. But like some of my big ones, I mean, obviously, if you're from Canada, you got to work with Drake, man. Got to work with Drake. Yeah. I'd love to work with The Weeknd too, because I really like his like 80s sound that he's got going on. Yeah. But honestly, I don't know. I'm pretty open to like everything, man. Like I'm just in it to make music, and like as long as it's good, like I'm down to collaborate with anyone who'd be down to collaborate. Really, sure. Anything really, anyone.
So like any like Toronto artists, like let's say like Pressa or like Puffy L's and all that.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I'll do all of it, man. Yeah, whatever they want. Yeah, if they come to me, if they believe in my sound, then I'm gonna give them like the best that I can. Like whatever they want, man. Like I'll study them. Yeah, whatever the case is.
Yeah, for sure. And earlier you said like you were like self-taught with like a lot of stuff throughout most of your musical experience. So knowing that you've been self-taught, have you ever felt that you've retained more skills from that rather than from like an instructor or from like someone teaching you, or would it be like the opposite?
See, I don't know. I'd say it's a good mix of both. My one guitar teacher in college, Robert Bulger, this guy, like the way he explained the fretboard to me was like sort of revolutionary for me in a sense. Opened up a lot of different pathways. But even the stuff that like I just learned on YouTube, I'm just like watching, like even when I was young, watching like a Marty Schwartz video or something like that. Like, yeah, I sort of just retain all of it. But the ones that really stick with me are just like the ones that are really out there and the ones that are explained well. I feel like that's like the main thing when it comes to teaching. Like you can learn it from any medium, but as long as it's explained well in like a way that your brain can understand it, then I think that's what's more important.
Also, like it could also depend on like accessibility with many like content and like other stuff too and all that. Like with me, like when I first started like even like photography, videography, even with the whole like podcasting stuff, YouTube University was like the first thing that I went to, and then I just kind of learned like how to do this and like finding the simple like instructions to finding like certain ways to do it, like the elements, like what would be needed and all that too. Other times like I've had spoken with people and like found out like what I could do to kind of make some stuff better, whether it's like with images, whether it's with video, whether it's with other stuff too and all that. And yeah, I think for some people, like if you have the accessibility to kind of access it, then go for it and all that too, because like there are like programs where there's like photography, videography, like radio, like hosting, radio announcing, and like you can go to college for that, like as you mentioned before too. You could pay like let's say like $4,000 to like maybe like $6,000 for like maybe a whole like one whole year and all that. And if it works out, it kind of works out. If it doesn't, then there are other ways to like kind of like attain it like in a way and all, so.
Yeah, there's always like a stream someone can take, especially in those sorts of fields. Like I feel like at least talking like for music, like there's always just going to be something for someone, even if you can't like run the business by yourself. Like there's like a company out there that could take you for whatever, and it's like as long as you're doing something musically, like I mean, like can't really ask for much more, I feel.
Nah, for sure, man. And I think just to kind of like end it off right there, I do feel like with whatever you could do, there are experts like in that field, like as you mentioned, that can help you throughout the way too. Like as you said, with your guitar teacher, he taught you many things that you might have not known, like in a sense too. And there are like experts that have been in that game for like maybe 15, 20, 30 years and all that. And they know maybe some tricks that maybe we don't understand and all that. And like it also takes time. And then like once we kind of like build that skill, we could also like teach like others like that way, like knowing like this is like the way to kind of like succeed like in some cases too. So
Yeah, I feel like that's almost like what a lot of like college was for me. It was just like a lot of guys who have done their run in the industry and stuff like that, and now they're just sort of settling down and trying to give their views and opinions on stuff. Sometimes it's outdated, sometimes it's not, but like it's good to learn about everything in all aspects, but just like take certain things with a grain of salt, sort of thing.
I know what you mean, man. And to get more into like the whole like producing side in a sense too. What is your creative process when producing or like beat making, and what would a day in like producing or beat making or like being in the studio be like for you in a sense?
Oh man, it would be, well, once I'm like ready for the day, you know, like I've showered and like I've done my whatever I need to do, and then I'm ready to sit down. It's just like whatever really comes to me. Sometimes I do drums first. Sometimes I'm guitar first. Sometimes I don't even use guitar. Sometimes I'm just like playing piano. Usually I draw a lot of inspiration from just like random sounds and stuff that I hear. Even if it's just like a little YouTube short or something like that, if there was like a little melody in it or like I like the chord progression or whatever, it's just like, okay, like I can probably do something with this. So, and then I just start building up off of there. But yeah, there's no like definitive way that I do it, I would say. I do have like methods to making certain genres and stuff like that. But yeah, nothing's really ever set in stone. It all just depends on where the idea starts from.
And just like kind of being like in the right moment in that sense too, because you know you could be outside and like you'll probably hear like a certain like sound like on the left side or like on the right side, like depending on the direction of where the area is, and like if it hits, kind of like hits in a way and all that.
Yeah, you know, making sure everything's just sonically like nice, like, you know, you throw the headphones on, you say, yeah, man, just make sure everything sounds good and stuff like that as well. Yeah, like don't want your like beats to just be like fully distorted, and it's like rappers listen to it off their phone. They're like, dude, what is this? Like,
because it has to be like kind of like mixed properly, mastered, making sure like that the frequency levels like kind of hit like on a good note.
Oh, as long as it hits, that's my main thing. Because you know they are just still listening off their phone.
True.
So it's like, you know, I'm not gonna spend like 2 hours mixing like my beat or whatever to make sure it's like perfect. And especially when they have to put their vocals on top still, and then it's like, you know, they'll listen to it for 2 seconds and they just like flip off of it. And it's like, okay, my 2 hours of work is just wasted right for that person. But
100%, man. And like usually with some people too, like they'll have like, you know, studio rules and all that too. Like, I don't know, what are your like ground rules for like the studio and all that? If it's like weed, licks, the amount of people bringing like in the room and all that, if there's like candles, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I'm still in my house, right? So it's just like a no smoking policy. You can drink, I don't care. Just don't spill stuff like on my equipment. And but yeah, it's totally like we're a weed. Like we can do weed and stuff here. Like we can do weed. You know, it sounds so like wash, but yeah, no, like my parent, like no one really cares if people are smoking. Like I have like an upper level to my garage, so, and there's like couches and stuff in there, so I was just like, yeah, just go crazy in there, man. Like do whatever, as long as you're not doing anything like hard, like anything too crazy, like, whatever, right?
True. Like when you're like producing or beat making, like have you ever been like in an element like where you're like high or like, you know, like a little bit drunk and all that, and like you've kind of made like maybe like the best stuff, or does it only like kind of happen like when you're sober, like in a sense?
I don't know. It kind of depends, really. Yeah, it's just another one of those things where it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I have great ideas sober. Sometimes when I'm just like blasted, I just have like these amazing like masterpieces in my head. But then sometimes they're just garbage too. So like, you know, you look back at it the next day and it's just like, oh my God, man, like I'm just going to delete this. Like I'm good on this.
I know what you mean too. I think with some people too, like they can master it quite well, and I feel like they can make the best out. Like I think I was like watching like this like one interview where Future was like talking about like how he did like, you know, the vocals for like Tony Montana and all that, and like basically he was like so high, like off like lean and all that, his mouth was like
it was locking in place, right? Yeah,
much and all that. It was like Tony Montana, and like it wouldn't be like the whole like typical like Future sound where he would like kind of like take his like breath in, like open like his like mouth and all that, like make sure like his teeth kind of flow through. It's like, you know, when you're like geared in with like the lean or other stuff like that too, like it'll kind of be within that element. And then there are others that have done well with like shrooms and all that too, and like I'd say like maybe like Kid Cudi had good times, like let's say like Man on the Moon, and then his worst times like at Speeding Bullet to Heaven and all that. So it just kind of depends on the moment and the energy and all that.
Yeah, no, it really does, man. Cause like, yeah, like because sometimes good ideas come, but like I doubt there's gonna be like a sober guy coming up with a Tony Montana sort of song, right? Because like it just sort of fit that vibe like right in the second there. But yeah, there's definitely no rules when it comes to it. I don't think you should need to be like off lean or whatever to be able to make music, but like it could help. It could help people. Hey, I'm not gonna like question other people's creative processes, sort of thing.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure,
it's to each their own, really. Yeah, some people it's like because I know some rappers they literally come in and it's like, man, I'm not recording unless like I've had like 3 shots, and it's like, okay, bro, like do your thing. You're on the clock still, but like you're good.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, man. And I want to talk about some of your production credits. Like when I was like looking at the EBK like a little bit too, you talked about some of your best ones like Hecko's like Bust My Brain, Chris Chan's like Loving You, and then Smart Santi's like Perfect Time. So I want to figure out like the whole like creative process and inspiration for those like production credits.
Okay, so starting off with Hecko, we could he basically just reached out to me and he asked if he could clear one of my samples that I did with Northwave, like Hudson. And it was a pretty simple sample. It was just me playing this like neo soul guitar riff, and then Hudson just added like some flutes, I'm pretty sure, on top of it. And he just asked for sample clearance on that one. Then he did all the drums himself, like that for that dance hall vibe. And yeah, it was just great. I was like, yeah, man, like go ahead. And yeah, that was basically that. Chris Chan, he's a good buddy of mine from college. Like we met in like first year. He was like literally like my first friend basically there. And he came to me with Loving You, and he came to me with another song as well, but he hasn't dropped that one yet. But he came in with these 2 songs, and I loved the idea for both of them so much. And I was like, yeah, man, like I'll mix and master these, no problem. And then we just split on a publishing percentage for that. So it just like sort of worked out that way. And then Smart Santi, that placement came to me. That was another Hudson guitar sample that we did together. It was from our Hit Formula sample pack that we made in like 2021 or something like that. Yeah, it was like right in my first year of college when him and I were chilling a lot. And yeah, and then that like someone just got a hold of that. My buddy Lucas got a hold of that sample. He just did the drums on that, sent it off, and like the rest was just sort of history there for Smart Santi as well. Yeah, it was just so both of like my bigger placement songs have been from my pack with Hudson.
Oh, nice, nice, man. And when we talked about like publishing for a bit too and all that, because I know for a lot of artists like they use like DistroKid, they use like TuneCore, United Masters, like CD Baby and all that too. So like usually like when like production like credit or anything else kind of like works in that sense too. Like with some artists, like does it like kind of depend on the percentage? Depending on like the amount of effort like on the beat, or just the amount of effort like on the song and all that, or like how does it kind of like process?
When it comes to producers, we just like to keep it like pretty straightforward most of the time. At least I do. Like, and everyone else that I work with, it's like, it's like 50-50, 33 sort of thing. In terms of that. But then if one of my artists aren't buying like an exclusive beat, they still have to like credit me and all the other producers and stuff on it as well. So we get paid in that end as well. But yeah, it's basically just equal shares for everything. And but some artists will like for instance on Hecko's song, like I'm pretty sure I'm listed as like an extra performer, so I make like a 5% off of it, which is like that's totally cool with me.
True. Yeah. And is it like mainly like contractual, like in a sense too, where there's like contracts involved, or would it just be like, hey, like let's figure out this, like to kind of like add in the information too, so that the percentages work out, or
yeah, it's sort of like a both sort of thing. Like I'll send them like a license agreement, and then for the most part, and then we just like sort of talk about it and set stuff in stone. Like I end up becoming like friends with most of my artists and stuff. Like I feel like it's not hard to get along with me. So
100% too, and we're definitely gonna get more onto that as well too. So you've managed to work with like even with a previous guest of mine like Jesse the Dreamer, and also with Beanie, I think, and then also Alex Thompson, who's also like another engineer as well too. So how did those like come about, and like how was the experience like working with them and seeing like their recording and creative like processes like firsthand?
So Jesse, man, me and Jesse do like a lot of stuff together. We literally just like met on Instagram, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, he basically just takes all the songs that like I don't want to say that no one else wants, but like he always picks up like the songs where I've used just like my samples and like my drums and stuff where it's like my like sound completely. So like I really dig that. I really dig that in a sense. But he's a really talented guy. He just whips up melodies and stuff like that. Like it's nothing. He's versatile as well. Like I love like we did a walkout song for one of his fighter buddies.
Oh, true.
And it was like this metal Irish sort of bagpipe heavy guitar. It was crazy. It was nuts, and Jesse killed it. Alex, I love Alex. He's a good guy, but Jesse got me an acquaintance with Alex, and he asked me if I wanted to do this like sort of maggot brain, like funkadelic sort of like just like washed out reverb, just heavy guitar solos, lots of bends and stuff like that. I was like, dude, that's like right down my alley. Love funkadelic sort of thing. And then he basically just like sent me all the stems and stuff like that. And then I gave this guy like probably like I think it was like 3 or 4 different runs of me just like soloing throughout this whole song, and then he could just like pick and choose which parts he wanted because the main vocal wasn't layered on top yet. So I didn't want to like interfere with it or anything like that. So yeah, that was basically all just up to him. And then B Beanie, I met him through my buddy Ryan in college actually, and that was just like a mastering gig sort of thing. But he's a really good guy too. We still keep in touch occasionally. But yeah, no, it was just like a basic mastering gig sort of thing, and then he's sort of like that. Yeah.
Nice, because I know with many artists too, like they kind of have like different processes, like when they're in the booth and all that. Whether it's like like trying like certain takes and all that, or kind of like performing the song like way before like they get in the booth and all that. And I feel like that is also like an important one too. Kind of performing, having like your stuff down in order to like kind of be in the booth, because I think it just kind of goes well that rather than just coming in like going off the dome, and then sometimes off the dome works, but like maybe not in the extent that how an engineer or producer can like see it as well too. So
yeah, and it's like I feel bad too. Like if they come in, they don't have anything prepared. This has happened before too, and it's like people come, they're not prepared. They don't even know like what they're doing. So I don't even know what I'm doing. Like I don't even know if I'm set up to like compose for these guys, or if I'm running like a vocal session, or like whatever the case is. And then I feel bad, and like like their hour or two's gone up, and like we've gotten like nothing done.
True.
And I'm like, dude, like just come ready, man. Like come ready, dude. Like even just freestyle at home, just record yourself. We can layer that in. Like do something, man. Like because I don't want people to just come and just like waste their time with me. I still want to get some work done.
Yeah.
Right. So.
But I feel like with the other stuff too, with the whole like recording experiences too, like I guess they have been like very great experiences to see them like kind of like be on your beats and all that, like see them like kind of like get on the booth, like speak their piece and all that. So
yeah, no, it's a really good feeling too. It's like, yeah, man, like these artists, like they trust my sound. It's like clearly I'm doing something right, I guess. So just keep doing it. So yeah, no, it is really nice though, especially like it just feels good too. Like just because like since I've done it all myself too, like I didn't use like a looper. Not that there's anything wrong with loops. Like I use them all the time, but it just feels better when you have it done by yourself.
For sure. And like from your experience as a producer and like like an engineer, like also with mixing and mastering too, like what do you feel makes a great song, like in a sense?
Man, it's a lot of things. Like I feel like everything plays its part to make a really good song, because there's some songs that I like that are really good, but they have like shitty mixes or whatever, and it's like, oh, this is like almost unlistenable.
Yeah.
But or sometimes it's vice versa, and it'll be like a good mix, bad song sort of thing. But yeah, I feel like everything has its part to play. Like it's got to meet a certain level of production. It's got to meet a certain level of songwriting, and it just has to flow and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say that it's not hard, but it's like it when you hear it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know it, right?
Yeah, I kind of look at it like in two E's in a sense to emotion and effort. So when like an artist like gets on like on that song too, shows like whatever like emotion they can. Like I feel like having that emotion evoked in with that effort, like it kind of works out like very well and all that. Whether like they're in the right mood, whether they're like in the bad mood, like it also like kind of depends. And also just to see like their level of work, like when you see like someone in the booth and all that, like let's say BFB the Pac-Man's like Joe Exotic and all that too, like he was like rapping when when the Rents like doing all that, like like the Rents do. So, and I feel like with a lot of artists too, like they're in their most hungriest like when they're like speaking their piece and all that too. Even with pop songs too, I feel like when some artists like kind of get emotional or kind of like show that rage, it's like I know that they've put like 100% of that effort in that song too, even if they had like other like songwriters as well too. So
yeah, vulnerability is definitely a big thing. Yeah, for sure. Vulnerability in lyrics and stuff, because it's sort of, well, I mean, or like even just being relatable, I guess, in a sense, just because you want to be able to connect with your listeners as well. So I guess, but also there are some songs that I just love and they're just talking about nothing though. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? But this is hard. Like, I love this. Yeah. Yeah, it just depends on everything, man. Sure. No rules at all. It's so crazy in music.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. How do you like feel about like song structure and like just the arrangements like in that sense too?
Important. That stuff is so important. Like there even some collabs and stuff I get back where producers have used my samples. And I'm like, I want to, like, sometimes, like, there was this one beat that I wanted to send out, but, like, it was just arranged so poorly. I'm like, dude, like, where even, like, what's going on? Like, where's your chorus? Like, what's your verse? Like, is this a pre-chorus sort of thing? And then, but even in some songs, too, like, there's this one song, Lost in Paradise. It's literally, like, the outro to, like, this anime, Jujutsu Kaisen.
True.
Yeah, and it's a great song, though. But I was listening to it, and, like, the brunt of the song, like the catchiest part of the song, doesn't come in until the very end, like 5 minutes into the 4 or 5 minutes into the song. I'm like, dude, I want more of this. Like it's a good song, but just like literally just take that section, just like add it a couple more places, sort of thing. Yeah, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like nowadays too, like with like some songs nowadays, it's just usually going by the duration nowadays. Like more people prefer like shorter songs nowadays due to like the short like attention span and all that too. And I feel like that's what makes more songs like popular nowadays too, is to kind of do like maybe like one verse, one chorus, and like that's it and all that. Others, like when you like deepen in for like a longer song, I feel like sometimes too, like it's amazing to hear, but then you don't know like when that attention's like gonna be there and all that. And, like even with TikTok too, because nowadays most people just kind of like skip to that specific part that goes like viral and all that, even though they're not gonna take the full conceptualization like of a song like from the start to the end. Like let's say with Youngblood's one recent song, I think that was like probably like on TikTok. I think it's like Parents or Teenagers or something like that too. They take like maybe like one part, like I was like born in a messed up society, and like most people will only use like that one part, but then they're never gonna understand like the whole like conceptualization of like what that actual song talks about. Even with like let's say like Kanye West's like All Falls like Down and all that, so yeah, people seem to like misconstrue a lot of the meanings of songs just to add like TikTok dances behind it and stuff like that. I mean, it's whatever, like people can perceive music how they want, but I feel like a lot of stuff isn't like portrayed the right way when it comes to TikTok, and like people get like a certain perception about things when they've just heard like the one lyric as well or whatever. When I don't know, it could just be talking about something else completely, So sure, man. Sure. I want to ask, like, what was like, your favorite or like greatest like studio experience, or just like your song experience like so far from like your career, like in that sense?
Oh man, I'm proud of a lot of the stuff that I do. Most of the stuff that I do, I'm pretty proud of because it's just out there now for like ever. But right now, I'm working with this one artist, Laura. She's like a childhood friend of mine as well. But she's like bringing me into like the indie pop sort of world, and I'm like really digging the stuff that I'm doing with her right now, which is like it's not usually my pace, but like we're making like the best of it, and like now I'm just like really starting to appreciate this sort of thing. So like everything we do together now is just like, like this hits, like this is good stuff. Like I like all of this.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, there's also like there's just a lot of like dopamine hits. Like even when you like finish a mix, finish a master, and like no revisions are needed or something like that. You know, whatever the case is, as long as someone's happy, like I'm like, I'm down. I'm down.
Yeah, man, 100p in a sense. And do you ever have like like any favorite songs to produce to, and like why and all that?
To produce too?
Like maybe I think like when I wrote it, it's like what are like some of your favorite songs to produce, like like the types of like songs and all.
Oh, types of songs. Man, I like anything that's like that strikes me really is like that like I think is like a really good song. Like I'm gonna want to like strip it down to like its core almost and just like sort of see what's making it sound like that in a sense. But man, I like anything with just like anything upbeat, fast paced,
good energy.
Sometimes like some crazy guitars and stuff like that. Like I'm a huge Polyphia guy. But anything that's got some energy, man. Like I love making that stuff. Like it's just so fun to me. I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, yeah, this is so hard. Like,
for sure, man. And with the beats and like the mixing that you're doing now versus like before, do you feel like there has been like a lot of growth or like significant like change for the better in this sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm like always. It's like it's one of those things as far as like you can't be perfect in this field, so you just got to absorb as much knowledge as you can on this endless pursuit. So yeah, I'm always trying to better myself. Like I'm always watching like videos and stuff. Like I love like watching even just other producers that I know and stuff. Like I like what even if they're like beginners or something like that. Like sometimes there's something still to learn, whether it's like a workflow thing or even something musically. So it's like I just got to keep my mind open to everything.
Oh, for sure. I don't know if you've seen like the Mass Appeal, like, crate digging like series, or I think the beat making series and all that. And they'd had like, like different producers, like every time that produced like MF Doom, Havoc, who else? I think the like Heat Makers and all that, like a lot of like new school, old school producers and all that. And, when they go to like a vinyl shop, like they're grabbing like the specific vinyls or like grabbing like specific stuff. They like kind of like get into it, like find like the right style, like find like the right sample, and then it just like kind of works out from there. And like they kind of mix it, like make it work, and it's like amazing to see too. Even the whole like Kenny Beats series and all that, where he has like many like artists like coming by, like that's like amazing to see from what he could like work up with, and like seeing like how that artist is like gonna take that in and all that too. So
yeah, it's all about like training your ear in that sense, because like when it comes to crate digging and stuff like that, like. I used to just like, I'd listen to like these older like soul songs or whatever, right? And I'm like back when I was first starting, I'm like, man, like how do people sample? Like this is like ridiculous, man. Like how do people? But you start to develop an ear for it. Yeah. Like you could hear a sample and then just like certain aspects of it, like just like little flutters and little accents and stuff like that. It's like okay, I know what I can do with this sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like the best finds are usually like the rarities that no one can like even like find and all that, to like sample snitch and all that, because there are like many producers that kind of find like unique ones, like let's say like Chinese folk or like Quebec like pop, or like French like bossa nova. Like they kind of find like those specific records, find like that right part, that right melody, that right hook, and kind of works out. And then others, they go for like the typical sample, like the Bob James, like Nautilus and all that, the Take Me to Mardi Gras type one.
Yeah, like Boyz II Men and stuff like that. Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like sampling's definitely come like a long way, but I still think it's like I still think it's like its own revered like art form in itself. Like that stuff is crazy.
For sure.
Yeah.
How do you even like feel about like sample snitching like in a sense too?
I think it's all great, man. Like I think anything sampling is cool, like because it's just really what it's really doing is just bringing like more music to light, and I guess in a sense. Yeah, like so I think it's really cool stuff, and just like the exposure to that as well will just help everyone else become more versatile musicians as well, which I feel like is like a really key thing to have.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's really cool, man. Yeah, I definitely want to start like crate digging more. I definitely don't do enough of it.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And I mean, every like vinyl store like around like the world, like I think like you'll find like some good finds, whether it's like Quebec or like California or like France and all that too. So
yeah, no, literally everywhere. I was even just in the one that like one of the ones in Oshawa, and they just like they got some like pretty good stuff in there, man. Sure. Like I was like even in their clearance section, I'm like, dude, like this is all crazy. Like this is heat.
Yeah, I was at like not like a vinyl store, but like I was at like BMV like bookstore like on Bloor West one day, and then I literally like found like old school like double XL magazines, and basically like the old school covers where you would find like the ringtone like music from there and all that, and like the ones where you could find like like the whole like King like press coverage and all that too. So
Mm.
and those are like some like rare finds to find, and like you kind of like reminisce those times to like read like old school stuff, or like to find like old school stuff and see like what it kind of like sounds like or interpolates from that era that it was like purchased and all that. So
Yeah, you really, yeah. Doing those sorts of things, you can really hear how like even productions come up through the years, and like how just songs as a whole started
Yeah.
sounding different. Like it's really crazy to see
sure,
how far
man.
we've come in that
Yeah,
sort
man.
of thing.
No, 100% too. And I also wanted to ask, like, what are your like pet peeves as a producer or like engineer by any chance?
Oh, pet peeves? Oh man. I feel like my body's telling me that there's a lot, but I can't even like think of any right now. I mean, it would be people not being ready sometimes, unless they like tell me that like like we're doing stuff like off the dome. Like I don't know. I just like being prepared. Really, like I don't like people being too. I don't like it when people are like non-communicative. Like I want to know like what's going on.
Or you're gonna like speak with like a third person to kind of get what that artist wants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there are like some artists that you only have to speak with their middleman to get to that artist and all that, and then it sort of becomes like hard to even like have like the whole connection with the artist sometimes and all that. And that's
Yeah.
I guess for like maybe like bigger producers or like producers working with like bigger artists and all that too. I wouldn't see it with like the underground like in a sense and all that too. So
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big thing. Yeah, just like that middleman definitely kills a lot of like it just wastes time too. Like it should just be easier if I could just
Yeah.
talk to them and like I don't blow up your phone, man. It's just like I wanna know
True.
what you want.
nah, for sure, man. Have you worked with like bands before by any chance?
Bands, I recorded bands like in college and stuff like that. I don't do a lot of band work right now. But like I'm definitely open to it. It's just because I don't have a space to
Yeah.
I don't have
No,
enough space
for sure.
in my studio to record
Yeah.
drums
Yeah.
right now. So
Yeah.
it's like, but like I'd love to I'll mix and master for them, no problem.
true.
But it's just like I can't record there yet unless we go to like a different studio to do
no,
it.
Sure.
But yeah, there are a few bands that like I definitely want to work with, like Judgment from Oshawa. Like definitely want to work with those guys at some point. But yeah, they're like homies too. So
True.
yeah.
100%, man. I don't. Are they more easier to work with, like like bands, than with like individual artists, or would it be like very different?
It's a bit different. It's a bit different. Especially just even working with different instruments in general. Like even like miking like a guitar amp up is like
Yeah.
different. Like and mic and drum kits up
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And everyone's like always tailored. Like everyone always has their own needs.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, and
Yeah.
everyone like communicates differently as well because sometimes not always like everyone's not always like acquainted with like the lingo in producing and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's like my job to like try
Yeah.
and pick apart
For
what
sure,
they're
man.
saying. But I it's probably a bit easier for me to just work with like an artist. But I mean like that's just part of the game. Like I don't mind working with bands at all. It's just a few more people that I have to.
Yeah, man. Nah, for sure. Nah, 100% too. And we just have like these like last like couple like questions for a bit too. But like, how do you even like feel about the whole like Toronto GT music scene right now? And do you feel that there should be some changes on how the direction of the scene should go to?
Well, I see like R&B sort of like picking back up. Like I think it's a lot of rap right now. That's
Yeah.
like the main thing. A lot of rap, and I feel like it's not bad at all, like in any sense. But like I feel like not a lot of people like really care about it that much. Like obviously like people do,
Yeah.
but I feel like it could be bigger.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it could be bigger. But I'm again back to like the whole versatility thing. Like I feel like if a lot more Toronto artists like would break out and like they did like R&B, they did
Yeah.
hip hop, they did pop, they did
Yeah.
all this other stuff. Like I feel like that would be a better direction for it to all move in, so it could be like a home for all these genres.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'd really say that's about it. Like I just want to see more versatility. I
Yeah.
think really because yeah.
I feel like with certain artists too, it has like works for them with like like Toby or like also like Alum and all that. Who's like this like one artist like from Windsor and all that,
Mhm.
and like some other people too. I feel like it also depends. Like if we're talking about like the Toronto street artists, like I feel like there is like maybe like a 1 in 50 chance like you'll see like a lot of like versatility, and I think that's coming from like more of like the newer acts and like the older acts, like like Dr. Bushman and all that. 100 like OTD and like also with I think like Gustavo like Guapo like in that sense too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's like finding like that whole like uniqueness within that sense too. And I do feel like if you find like the right producer or like you find like the right engineer or you find the right style, like it just kind of works in that sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, like people's sounds are definitely just bound to like meld with each other in a sort of sense. Like I feel like that's almost like what happened with like Jesse and I
Yeah.
sort of thing. Like yeah, you just find your producer and like yeah, like you should just sort of stick with them
Yeah,
in that
sure.
sort of sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And I think this is like to kind of like add on to like the whole like song arrangements and like even with songwriting as well too. Like bringing back like the third, fourth verse and all that, like it also works like throughout the way and all that because it kind of creates like creativity. It kind of creates like more depth like for like an artist to show their capabilities as like a lyricist as well too. And like
Yeah,
even
bring back bridges, man. Like where did those go? Like I don't see a
man.
lot of those these days. But yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, like songs need to be longer again. People need to have more to say. As long as they're doing it like in different rhythms and stuff, keeping things fresh and
or like
whatnot.
or like even like doing like breaks as well too. Like I feel like with a break, then they can create like another song and just kind of like works out from there and all that.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, 100%. Like even if it's just like a beat switch or something like that, man. Yeah, like I wanna hear some like some new stuff. I see a lot of beat switches now, which is nice. Like I really like that. But yeah, it just keeps things fresh.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I wanted to ask, like, what are your plans of this year in terms of like any other music or creative opportunities and so forth?
Oh man, I'm gonna be working a lot this year, but I do plan on probably dropping a song this year at some point. I have one song released, but that was like years ago. So I've grown out of that shell. But I do plan on releasing a song at some point because it's just overdue, and I want people to listen to my stuff because there's just some beats that like I just don't even have artists for, man. It's just like I'm like it's either I'm gonna have to do vocals or I might just leave them instrumentals. So I still need to figure out what I'm gonna do with that. But yeah, songs definitely this year. Lots of placements I plan. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And then yeah. I mean that's basically it, I guess. Really, yeah, just placements and stuff like that. Songs, and then probably an album eventually. Yeah. I got a lot of stuff, man. I got like a full hard drive of beats. Like it's crazy.
Maybe like a beat tape someday and all that.
Yeah, no, I probably will because I definitely want to sync those out at some point as well. So yeah, I'll probably be dropping some beat tapes and stuff like that as well.
Sure, and do you have any like closing remarks you'd like to say, or like any words of advice for people who want to like pursue like in your footsteps by any chance?
Man, yeah, I feel like I got a few things. Be nice, be kind. The strongest are the kind. And yeah, man, just keep chasing. Like that's it, like just keep working is really it. Like consistency is key. I would just like if you find your lane, just stick with it and then sort of branch out when you feel the opportunity comes to you. And sometimes it even is just like a waiting game as well. As long as you're still doing stuff and keeping consistent, like I feel like that's all you can really do, man. And just just work as hard as possible.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Just like get it.
100% too. And where can they like follow you like on social media?
Oh, what's that? Sorry.
Where can they like follow you like on social media?
Everywhere. I'm everywhere at Matt Knudsen on all socials. 2 N's at the end. And yeah, basically everywhere. TikTok, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, Facebook as well. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. Matt, it's like a pleasure like having you like on the podcast.
Thank you.
For the very first time to like share your story and to share everything like that. We'll definitely like have you on again soon and all that to just even like deepen on like a lot of stuff too, like even with like hosting sites, everything else too, and much more and all that. And man, and
yeah, we got a lot to talk about, man. Yeah,
pretty much 100% too, man. And this is Josh, also known as Yashu, episode 71 of the TLOY Talks podcast. You can get it like on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, YouTube, much more and all that. Definitely tap in with Matt's music and like his production. Like you can access it from the link like on his IG and all that. A lot of amazing stuff. You definitely gotta check out a beat to either like lease or anything like that too, or like even pay for like a simple like Wave or MP3 and all that, to kind of like test out, and also check out like some of the stuff like on Spotify with the credits and like much more and all that, and like you'll definitely check out like more episodes soon with everyone, like whether it's from Toronto or everywhere else too and all that. So this is Josh, also known as Yashu, with Matt Knudsen, episode 71, TLOY Talks, signing off.
All right, thank you, man.
Yeah.